name of the session is Gender-Based Taboos and Stereotypes with focus on the youth. My name is Alicia. My pronouns are she, her. I am a part of Connecting Dreams Foundation, and we are organizing the Changemaker 20 Summit under the aegis of G20 and two tracks of G20, which are the Civil 20 and Youth 20. I'll start with introducing Palakh, who is the founder of Break.The.Ice. Palakh and her team are going to be moderating a session. So, a little bit about Palakh. Palakh is a 20-year-old social entrepreneur and a LinkedIn content creator with over 64,000 followers. She's the founder of Break.The.Ice and BW Wellbeing's 30 Under 30. Break.The.Ice is working towards breaking societal taboos and creating an enlightened youth community. Presently, in 10 plus countries, the organization works on different taboos, including mental health, menstruation, gender equality, climate change, etc. A world record holder, Palakh is the former regional officer for Asia Pacific. She has been featured for her work in the Times Square, US Times Now, and The Hindu, among others. So, Palakh is a great example of why we've chosen Youth for Changemaker 20 Summit, and we want more and more youth voices to sort of come forward and take the conversation ahead. So, Changemaker 20 Summit generally, the aim of Changemaker 20 Summit is to invite youth to take their voices forward. And I'm very, very happy to see such an amazing panel in front of me. And thank you so much, guys, for participating in this summit. Now I'll pass the mic over to Palakh. Palakh, please take it forward. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So sorry for the delay in the unmuting. I am Palakh. Thank you so much, Alicia, and the entire team for the opportunity. And I look forward to, just collaborating with future events as well. Really, really glad to see such an exciting panel as well as the partners that we have on board today. We'll be talking about everything around gender equality, the taboos around it, and why the youth needs to be involved. That's what Break.The.Ice is doing. And my talented team at Break.The.Ice has curated the entire event. How we'll be going forward is we'll be asking some questions through a panel discussion to our panelists, followed by a small activity for all the young people who are attending the event so that they understand through the activity we are trying to empower them and help them understand why those statements, the ones that we use in this activity, why they're important and why they need to know these statements so that they take back something from this conversation. And then we'll follow it up with a Q&A from the audience's side. So that's the format. I'll now be handing it over to my amazing moderators for the day, Bhavya and Sarah from Break.The.Ice. Over to you guys.
Gender equality is not a female issue. It's a social and economic imperative. Until we get to a point where it's been a business issue, it will never be so. Jeannie Rometty.
Good afternoon, esteemed guests and panelists. Today, we gather here to delve into a topic that lies at the heart of human rights and social progress, breaking gender taboos and achieving gender equality. The quote by Jeannie Rometty serves as a poignant reminder that gender equality is not solely the responsibility of one gender, but it is a collective endeavor that requires the commitment of every member of society.
Gender taboos and inequalities have plagued humanity for generations, perpetuating harmful stereotypes, creating barriers to progress. At their core, these taboos are a reflection of deeply ingrained beliefs and biases surrounding what it means to be male or female. They impose rigid norms on how individuals should behave, express emotions, pursue careers, and participate in society. In the pursuit of gender equality, it is crucial to recognize the impact of gender taboos extends beyond the realms of personal belief. These taboos translate into real-world inequalities and manifest in various aspects of life, including education, healthcare, employment, and representation in leadership positions. The consequences of such inequalities are profound and far-reaching, affecting individuals and society as a whole.
So let us come together with open hearts and minds, ready to challenge prevailing norms, celebrate diversity, and pave the way for a future where every individual, regardless of gender, can thrive and contribute to the betterment of our world. My name is Sarah.
Bhavya.
and we will be your moderators for this event. Today, we have assembled a remarkable group of individuals who are passionate advocates for gender equality and are actively challenging the norms and stereotypes that
Mr.
surround gender.
Akhil Neelam is the co-founder and director of Center for Gender and Politics (CGAP), a dedicated public policy practitioner and advocate for gender rights. Mr. Akhil has effectively mobilized over 100 volunteers across South Asia to drive the promotion of gender equality in politics. Mr. Akhil's remarkable contributions have earned him recognition as a youth leader for UN Women's 30 for 2030 network and as a GEST fellow by the Government of Iceland. His background includes strategic policy communication work for Indian state governments alongside the planning and implementation of public education initiatives. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Ms. Pragya Sikka is a powerful advocate for gender justice who utilizes art and storytelling to expose the socio-cultural issues prevalent in India. Through her ongoing campaign, hashtag Make Campuses Safer, which has grown into a global community of more than 8,000 individuals, Pragya urges higher education institutions to take proactive measures against gender based violence on campuses. With a background in computer science, engineering, and a wealth of experience with working with various nonprofits, she brings a multidisciplinary approach to addressing complex social justice concerns. Welcome to this event,
Mr.
ma'am.
Akshay is an individual with multiple invisible disabilities who is committed to creating safer and more inclusive workspaces for all employees. He is deeply interested in exploring the intersections between social systems of stratification and different aspects of identity, particularly in the realms of gender, disability, masculinities, public spaces, and mental health. A staunch believer in social justice, Mr. Akshay's dedication to challenging systemic injustice is evident through his work and advocacy, amplifying historical silenced voices and standing against prejudice and inequality. It's an inspirational to have you here on the panel, sir.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Vaishnavi Jaiswal, a 17-year-old social entrepreneur and women's rights activist based in Gorakhpur, India, is passionate about leveraging science and technology for social change. Founder of the non-profit She's So Cool organization, Vaishnavi is dedicated to breaking down gender barriers and stereotypes in male-dominated career paths. Her field has reached over 50,000 women across 45 plus countries and has garnered recognition from esteemed platforms including the Diana Award and the George H.W. Bush Point of Light Award. As a 2022 Global Teen Leader, TEDx, and UN speaker, she continues to make a significant impact through her endeavors. We are excited to hear about your journey, ma'am.
Now that we've been introduced to our esteemed panelists and gained insight into their diverse experiences and remarkable contributions, it's time to delve deeper into the realm of gender taboos and inequalities. So, without further ado, let's jump into the heart of our discussion and discover how our panelists are reshaping the conversation around gender inequalities. Here's the first question to all our panelists. What has your journey been like? How did it start? And what was the motivation behind creating change? And what are the challenges you faced?
Should I go? Okay. Thank you so much, Palakh, Bhavya, and Sarah, and the rest of the team for having me here, giving me this opportunity to share the platform with other amazing panelists and to talk about something that is very close to my heart and I've been working on since last 3 years. So my journey with gender and politics started specifically 3 years ago, but my sensitivity towards the issue of gender inequality that's present in our society started much earlier. And I've always grown up in a male dominated space. I went through the STEM route where there are lesser girls than boys when it comes to STEM education, right? And I enrolled into mechanical engineering, and that's still considered a boys' club. So while I was growing up in that space, my habits like newspaper reading or travel got me exposed to some of the inequalities that are present, which I had not been exposed to until then. Some experiences shaped my exposure. One such experience was Jagrut Yatra that I did in 2015, where I was traveling to a lot of remote places across India, interacting with rural change makers, going to places where there is Naxal extremism in certain states, etc. And looking at, somehow because of my cohort interactions or otherwise, I ended up doing that entire trip of 15 days across India through gender lens, and that sparked my interest in learning more about the issue and how I can contribute as an individual. But over the last few years, while I've been exposed to these inequalities through different mechanisms, the urge to start something or to contribute really meaningfully in this space started when I met my co-founder, Sugandha, and we start. She already came with a lot of gender studies background, both in terms of education and exposure, and a lot of our conversations inspired me to join hands with her and start this initiative called Women for Politics. It just started with two of us contributing some of our time voluntarily alongside our full-time jobs. What started with two of us was eventually, like grown to a stage where a lot of young change makers across South Asia joined us as volunteers, and we are largely a volunteer-led initiative. All the work that we have produced so far is volunteer-led in the 3 years, uh, and that really keeps me going. Although there are challenges of that one phase, running a typical non-profit in India, or those entrepreneurial set of challenges that come with it, as my co-panelists can relate to as well. I just pause here and thanks again.
An inspirational journey. Thank you, Mr. Akhil. Now, if we could have Miss Pragya next.
Thanks, Sarah. Um, the question is actually very personal to say, when you ask about the challenges and the journey of somebody. So, a trigger warning, please assume a trigger warning every time I talk, because my work is in the space of gender based violence, and I work with sexual assault survivors. So, a lot of work that I do stems from the thought that this happened with me and this should not happen with anyone else. I was assaulted by a very close friend on campus while I was still an undergraduate student. I didn't know who to complain, how do things go by. For months, I had to see my perpetrator right in front of me on campus. I was a hostler, he was a hostler, and I had to see them on campus in the canteen during classes, and it was such a helpless, and I was so full of grief. My life pretty much turned upside down when that happened. And after I graduated, I made a commitment to myself that what happened with me should not happen with anyone else. And I started my Project Campus Allies, under which we host free workshops for college students on prevention and redressal of sexual assault. So you see, all the work that I do, this is just one example. The campaign which I'm running, Make Campuses Safer, the book which I'm working on, which talks about the realities of impact of sexual assault. It all stems from that one thought that what happened with me should not happen with others. And is it challenging? Is it emotionally and physically consuming? Yes. Will I continue to do this? Yes. So, yeah, the work chose me. Thanks.
One says that idea can change your life. It certainly rang true in your journey, Miss Pragya. Next, let's move on to Mr. Akshay.
Hi everyone, am I audible? I'm fine, right? You can hear me? Yeah. So first things first, Pragya, thank you so much for sharing the story, and I'm so sorry this happened to you. That's messed up. First things first, my name is Akshay right now. Picture description, video description. I'm wearing a white t-shirt, I have a beard, I'm wearing a headphones, and I'm wearing glasses, right? So yeah, so for me the push to you know understand or broad things regarding gender uh, came from seeing my mom and seeing my sister uh, being not given the best treatment from the men around them, from the family around them. And for me, like understanding gender has always been an academic study. Even when I took sociology, my whole drive was to learn more about gender. And I'm hugely interested in how we can bring men into the conversation. In the sense we are definitely focused on women empowerment, but I think men also need to do the work to fight patriarchy and to fight sexism on a daily level. It is not the labor of women only or gender minorities only to uphold it, right? So I'm super interested in bringing men into the conversation. As someone of their ilk, I think I have inside access to what they think, to what they are, and forms of violence and socialization they are, they feel or they get to on a daily basis. So for me, gender and studying and understanding gender is a critical what you call point to end sexism, to fight patriarchy on a daily basis, and to push the needle of inclusion forward. To summarize that's where my motivation lies.
Abhi said.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey, Mr. Akshay. Now, let's move on to last but not the least panelist, Miss Vaishnavi.
Everyone, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your stories, and also my story also going into gender inequality stems from a very personal reason. So there wasn't a specific aha moment for me to realize that like gender equality exists. As a young woman coming from a small village, it was seemingly very perpetual. So example like from a nursery rhyme that states mummy ki roti gol gol papa ka paisa gol gol, which is that mom's roti is round round and papa's money is the same. So it always reinforces like a deep rooted patriarchy and just gender stereotypes that um, it exemplifies that gendering that occurs like starting through Indian classrooms like in primary, and then it really goes through as young women, like saying outright statements about women's role or how one's need to fulfill expectations, how one should appear, and using phrases like don't be such a girl to explain weakness and insult, and oh, take it like a man or man up as courage and bravery. I think that certain notion is what led me to question things, and it really started when I was young enough. And when I started my organization, it wasn't towards like because I was 13 when I started. It wasn't I'm starting a non-profit organization. Obviously, I started advocating about like the questioning about, and whatever I was learning through the internet, through reading, I was able to like maybe have conversation with my friends, even speak at different schools, and that is how it really began when I actually started questioning the very basic stereotypes that surround around genders, like gender itself.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi, for sharing your journey. Now that we've round up with our common questions, let's move on to the individual ones. First up is to Mr. Akhil. As a recognized youth leader, can you elaborate on the significance of intercontinental collaboration in breaking down gender taboos and promoting equality?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah, for the question. I think you framed it very rightly. Intercontinental or interregional collaboration is sorry, essentially needed because if there was no collaboration, it would mean a lot of stereotypes being built. And once there is cross cultural understanding and cross sharing of practices, that's when you build a contextual and nuanced understanding of each other, and we could break stereotypes and progress further. It's not just uh, understanding one entity or how one player in another country acted. It's also the interplay of different stakeholders coming together in solving a problem. For example, at Center for Gender and Politics, we deal with we look at gender and politics, its intersection in South Asian context. Essentially, because when we looked at research being done around this space and other allied activities, there's a lot happening elsewhere in Europe or America or Australia or EU, right? And uh, but nothing is being talked about South Asia, and that tends to build a stereotype saying, "Oh, women in politics in South Asia only face challenges." But there are women leaders in South Asia who have been overcoming these challenges and emerging as leaders, right? But those stories don't get talked about, and these stereotypes about victimhood of their stories is being built. So that's where looking at regional context, comparing with other contexts, providing or highlighting the less represented regions as much as the others really matters. I also recently, as part of my engagement with Government of Iceland, studied and compared Iceland and India when it comes to women in their respective parliaments. And if I go back 50 years ago, around 1975, right, both India and Iceland had less than 5% women in their parliaments. But fast forward 50 years, India is now at 15%, while Iceland is at almost 50%. But the kind of initiatives political parties or other stakeholders took in Iceland, some of that we are seeing in India right now. But it's just that they happened to take those initiatives in the 1980s, and we are seeing them in 2010 and later on, right? So these nuances would come into play when there is interregional interaction between the right set of stakeholders, and one can always learn from each other. And it is the need of the hour, because we are seeing in few parts where decades of gains that have happened for gender equality or women's empowerment are being erased, like in a jiffy, right? So that's where the cross cultural understanding, I think, in my opinion, is very much needed. At just pause here.
Thank you, Mr. Akhil. It's truly very eye-opening to see these things from such a different perspective. Moving ahead, Ms. Pragya, could you share an example of a proactive measure taken by an educational institution that effectively addressed gender-based violence, and how did it impact the campus community?
Thanks for the question, Bhavya. But before I answer your question, let me give you all a bit of context. So, POSH, Prevention and Redressal of Sexual Harassment, the law, it makes it mandatory for all organizations and institutes to take a few steps, that is, hold gender sensitization trainings, hold sessions on what ICC is, Internal Complaints Committee, what we can broadly summarize as what legal literacy is. It is mandatory. We did a research 3 months ago across 50 colleges across India, and the results were heartbreaking. 95% of people have never been exposed to any kind of training when it comes to prevention or redressal of sexual harassment. Even today, we have our audience, a lot of them must be college students. And if I ask them what ICC is, I can vouch a lot of them wouldn't know that. And it's not their fault. They have never been told about this. The institutes who do not care less. To answer your question, that is there an institute? First of all, is there an institute which has been able to combat gender-based violence? No, there is no institute. Also, because they never tried. I come from what you could call one of the top engineering colleges of India, I have been sexually assaulted on campus, not once but twice. And that's eventually also when, Palak, when I launched the campaign, Make Campuses Safer. I ran a month long petition addressed to my own institute. I engaged with the ICC members. I spoke with the administration that if such an organization exists, if it existed always, why did it never come to know about this? Why does I've spoken with hundreds of students in my batch? Why does nobody know about it? What's the point of such an organization? So after the petition, there have been advancements, and I would absolutely commend the ICC of my college for that. Posters have been put across college campus. The website has been updated. The gender sensitization sessions have been made mandatory for every fresher when they enter the college during the orientation. So that's great. So also, what you said, that an institution, if they could combat gender-based violence, it's not going to be just a top-down approach. It needs to be a top-down approach where the system takes measures. It has to be a bottom-up approach where, projects like the one which you're running, where we educate children, students of colleges, that, there has to be, you need to hold your institutes accountable, ask for your rights. These are your rights. And of course, then people like me need to create that havoc, and advocacy is important. That's why we all are here. There has to be conversations around why this is important. So yes, that's that. Thanks.
Makes a lot more things clearer now. Next question to Mr. Akshay. Mental health is an essential aspect of overall well being. How can addressing mental health challenges contribute to breaking down harmful gender stereotypes and promoting healthier understandings of masculinity and
All
femininity?
right. Okay, that's a great question. As a neurodivergent individual myself, mental health is like one of the top priorities for me. And it's actually very interesting when we look at how gender norms, stereotypes interact and intersect with mental health, right? So basically, one of the, addressing mental health challenges, I think, can play a transformative role in breaking down gender stereotypes, right? So if you think about stereotypes on femininity and masculinity, like I have a couple of points. One thing is key, harmful gender types, they often dictate, you know gender norms, right? Men should be stoic, they should be unemotional and strong, while women should be nurturing, passive, and submissive. So these are rigid expectations that is set by society, and as well as from our daily interactions with people, with bosses, with the work that we do, right? And these can lead to internal conflicts, anxiety, and depression, right? When individuals probably cannot embody these roles because these are challenging roles, and these are constraints, and we are human beings with a broad range of emotions and behaviors, and we do not align with these traditional norms, right? And I think this is something that I want to connect with is toxic masculinity, right? It's absolutely imperative that we resist toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity, for people who do not know, perpetuates the notion that masculinity is solely defined by dominance, aggression, control, right? So the problem with this kind of narratives is that we have films portraying, or what do you call it, showcasing it. We have someone like Arjun Reddy, Karan Singh or Kiran Singh. I don't know what is the Hindi version of it. Yeah, basically, films like that which shows that men should behave like that, right? Like violence, substance abuse, risky behaviors. That is how you prove your masculinity, right? And when you prioritize mental health challenges, these toxic patterns, help men to communicate. They help them to redefine their masculinity, which in ways which align with their well-being, right? And drawing from toxic masculinity, I will talk about emotional intelligence, right? So mental health awareness basically puts the focus on development of emotional intelligence, which is extremely important for dismantling gender stereotypes, right? Again, men here again, because men are frequently discouraged from displaying vulnerability, sensitivity, emotional openness due to societal expectations. Because the first day the men, when men express feelings to each other, they're called what you call soft, right? When they're called that you're a gay person, and why are they gay person? Because they're associating talking about their feelings with being a homosexual, which is completely wrong, and that's a very archaic understanding, right? So when you are not vulnerable, when you are not sensitive, it eats you from inside, right? When our society tells men and women to empower themselves, right, but they will never tell to express their feeling, right? And I think that is the most important, fueling things. To do that, we need to embrace and explore a spectrum of identities that we have. That can be different gender identities, that can be different abilities, it can be different neurotypical neurodivergent identities, right? So many mental health resources actually offer support for people who question their gender identity or struggles with gender dysphoria. And mental health awareness actually provides space for identity exploration, right? To break beyond the binary norms. And I think I'll end with the last, the most important thing I keep on telling in every meeting that I get to. Uh, we cannot address mental health in gender without individually. It's a collective effort. We have to have communities, we have to have supportive communities. Addressing mental health collectively nurture supportive communities that challenge and transform gender norms, because you know we are used to the idea that our challenges are unique and individual, but they are not. When we find a group of men, or when we find a group of women who are on the same path to us, it is so empowering, because I'll not be able to fight day in day out. I need to fall back, I need to hit a wall and fall back. When I say fall back on a very graphic level, I feel we need to fall back on a community which will understand my struggles. I don't think I can push it today, and they're like, it's okay, do you want to talk about us, to talk to us about this, right? So it's incredibly important that we create safe spaces where we can debunk these stereotypes, gender stereotypes, and open conversations about the undue pressure and the unique pressures that is placed on different genders. And I think those will be my 5 points to talk about here.
Thank you, Mr. Akshay. You've really given us you've really given us a food for thought, to think about what goes on. So, Ms. Vaishnavi, your organization, She's So Cool, aims to break gender barriers in male-dominated career fields. Could you share a specific initiative or project that has empowered women to overcome these barriers and pursue their passions?
Yes, of course. So I started She's So Cool with an aim to make women smash stigmas and empowered even in the male-dominated fields. So, but there's still significant barriers to financial independence, which is a key sector to improve upon to achieve gender equity. Includes the gender pay gap, the lack of financial literacy, and inadequate access to financial services and protections that comes in the way of women's financial freedom. So, to give a little bit of context of why we launched this mission, um, we have to really come from like how it really emerged, because there was a study that was conducted by Anas Leclerc in 2017 that supports the NCRT curriculum, which is also a curriculum that I am a part of. And for classes 1 to 5, the stories and illustrations that shows men as money lenders, shopkeepers, doctors, and scientists as examples and illustrations. On the other hand, they use women portrayed as mother, wives, teachers, nurses. So I think this is like a very basic example that how in textbook we are largely confined to the domestic sphere, the women's, and the conscious absence of women in the workforce, starting in the school curriculum, leads to a subconscious but constant insecurity in women like me that maybe like women don't belong in the workplace. Also, a complementary to that was a survey by SCA, which shows that 98% women in tech experience gender bias in the workplace. Also, for the gender pay gap for the MSI, which is the Monster Salary Index that was published in March 2019, it shows that women in India still earn, on the average scale, 19% less than men, which, for example, if the gross hourly sale for the man is rupees 242.49, so for the women it will be rupees 196, meaning that men would be earning rupees 46 more than women for the same quantity and quality of work. Um, Also, the IT services showed a sharp pay gap of 16% in favor of men. And that's when we collectively, as a community and as organizations, initiated the I3 program, which is Independent Innovative Individual. What our mission at I3 is just to empower and uplift women and not just be limited to women, because overall our vision is um, any marginalized, any underprivileged, and economically disadvantaged groups and communities, that foster them through financial independence, to innovative education and skill development, and personalized support through mentorship. And we aim to create like a nurturing and inclusive environment that equips individuals with tools and knowledge and confidence to chart their own path towards sustainable economic development. Uh, One of the also key reasons why we believe this program will support them with resources and mentorship is because we can only provide so much in terms of like financial help, in terms of help towards a specific basic necessity, for example menstrual pads. But at one point of time, women, they want to be financially free, they want to have innovative solutions, and also oftentimes, having these advocacy sessions and workshops, I realize oftentimes they do have that spirit, and but it is always kind of laid back because of how the normalcy of society is. So the impact of I3 is mainly glued towards financial empowerment, breaking the gender norms, and then also providing economic growth and sustainability, which is a counter effect of just having this program alive. Um, Also, like empowering women beyond finances, which senses like senses a feeling of agency and self-determination in the participants of the program, that enables them to be like just informed citizens about the overall well-being, health, and future, and also their families. So yeah, in summary, the I3 initiative at She School organization envisions a world where like women and youth from different sexual backgrounds, identities, races, they feel empowered to self-sufficient, confident, and active contributors to communities and society as a whole.
It's really perfect, I think, Vaishnavi, that you're really working for making women feel that they're so cool, right? But it's heartbreaking to see how much we lack, and like such a long way we have to go to succeed in providing women that platform. But it feels like a breath of fresh air to have so many different perspectives from all our panelists to the problems that have been eating us for so long. And but we are here and we continue to fight against them. So, Sarah,
Now, as we draw to the close of our Q&A session, here's one last question to all of you. What are some changes, developments, and advancements you want to see in the world? What are some impacts you would want to create so people could see gender equality from a different lens? Mr. Akshay, you're up first.
Oh, cool. So, thank you for that very insightful question, Sarah. I think the first point of mine when we talk about what we can do, right, is we have to completely understand that true gender equality, if you really mean it, must recognize the intersectionality of identities. You cannot say something like women or you cannot say something like men. We need to create separate spaces and policies to acknowledge how gender intersects with caste, with religion, with ethnicity, with socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and disability, right? Because a Muslim woman or a Dalit woman's experience is different from a cis hetero caste woman's experience of what patriarchy or gender inequality is. A trans man's experience is different from a cis hetero man's experience, right? So unless and until we come to the conclusion, and that's the problem with a lot of social sector in India, it's very homogeneous for them. Women money women, and men money men. It's very clear cut for them, but identities do not work like that. They are like inherently intersectional. right? Unless we acknowledge that, and that will be my starting point. We have to start from there, right? We can only dismantle patriarchal system, create lasting change, only if we start from intersectionality, right? To dismantle patriarchy, we should challenge obviously unequal power dynamics in politics, in workplaces, in households. We should start from questioning, why is our father reading, sitting newspaper and asking for chai, and why is my mother getting chai for him? Why is he not capable of making chai himself? As simple as that, because in the sense ki patriarchal system is more robust inside the household more than outside. It is very, like, as students, as someone young, for us it's incredibly easy for us to see how gender roles are dictated within the house, and it starts within the house actually. And when you extend outside, when we talk about equal pay policy, shared parental leave, women's leadership roles and representation, and I think by reshaping these power structures, right, we lay the foundation for a more equitable society. And this is the society. And the next point is something that is very close to. I'm also a media student. Media plays a significant role in societal perception. Like, where do men know that, like, one of the ways to show love, toxic love, is to stalk? Because we see it in films. Nobody tells them to stalk them. When we see it film after film in which the guy is shown winning, double quotes, winning the women over by stalking, by inappropriately following them, right, by sending them lewd messages. And like, the problem is nobody realizes the influence of media. The media dictates our thought, right? So we should challenge and think about a media landscape that showcases diverse and authentic portrayals of gender identities, healthy relationships, right? Except Ted Lasso in international TV, I don't know a single male character which I can look up to in TV, like in drama, in sitcoms. I simply do not, right? And that is the avenue that you are giving people to look up to, right? So we should celebrate narratives that show the complexity of women, while also showing men are emotional, nurturing, women are multidimensional beings. I think by promoting these diverse narratives, we can do a lot of you know you know change. And I think I'll end with this important point of mental health again. And to foster a new lens of gender equality, we need to prioritize mental health support that specifically addresses the challenges posed by gender norms. Right? Matlab, I have told you what are the challenges that is, mental health awareness can address. And at the end, I think the last point I promise is ki, we should empower male allies, right? Because achieving gender equality is not the sole labor or the duty of women or gender minorities. Men have equal responsibility to dismantle patriarchy within their household and within their minds, right? So achieving gender equality requires involvement of all genders, encouraging men to be feminists, encouraging them to be allies, and advocating for gender equality is crucial. And this basically involves men to shun away their toxic masculinity, promote consent education, and foster environments where men feel comfortable to express their emotions, and at the end support women's empowerment without thinking that this will make them any lesser. I think comprehensive male education will be one of the interesting points that we can work with.
Let's hope at least some of those things come to life. Next up, we have Miss.
Hear you, but I'm going to assume because there's just two of us, I'll maybe take the question. I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
So to answer the
Yeah.
question that the change that I would want to see in the world, so this might come off as a surprise to a few people, but the laziest thing that you can do is to say that we are gender neutral. As a change maker, as an entrepreneur, please be gender intentional and not gender neutral. When organizations say that they're gender neutral, and they say things like that we provide the same benefits and policies to all genders, to everyone regardless of their gender, they fail to acknowledge the unique needs and challenges of people across different genders, of all genders. I'll back it up with a quick example that let's talk about an organization that says that we have a inclusive parental leave, and we give the same amount of leaves to all parents. The thing is that such a policy fails to recognize that a woman will need additional time off to recover from childbirth, physically, biologically. What a gender intentional policy would be, what in true sense an inclusive parental policy would be, that it acknowledges this needs of women who are giving birth to a child, while also giving flexible options to all parents. So, recognizing the caregiving needs, that should be the responsibility of all parents. It recognizes that while also giving that additional benefit and space to a woman to recover from, if they need the time off after childbirth. So that is, that was a very quick example on what gender neutral and gender intentional is, because being gender neutral at least would be useless, or at max could be harmful. So that's going to be my, if you take away anything from me from this panel to the audience, just take away this point that don't be gender neutral, be gender intentional. Thanks.
That was inspirational. Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Akhil.
I can't seem to hear you, Akhil. It's just me.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Voice is very muffled. It's barely audible.
Okay, maybe someone else can carry on.
N- Now it's
It's
fine.
audible now.
Okay, great. So the change I want to see is the Indian Parliament and all the G20 parliaments where all intersectional identities are represented, and that would really make a great impact on the society, uh, not just to perceive the world with the intersectional lens and look up to role models for that we can relate to. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Akhil. Let's hope the audience takes something back today. Last, we have Miss Vaishnavi.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing what they want to see, and I think I relate with almost all of them. What I feel, again, I do believe that change starts from home, and having said that, narrative is so important from home, to a school level, to community level, because that is how we are developed, like behaviorally. And to achieve a key role towards like gender equity, it is important to be intersectional feminism, to follow that path, because going back to the point of that, it is important to uplift every individual regardless of their backgrounds, and it is also important to acknowledge their backgrounds when we are trying to uplift them. Also, mindset shift is so important, because uh, normally when I initially like got into advocacy and like women equality, I just quickly considered myself a feminist. And when I have this when earlier I used to have this conversation with my friends, and they were like, feminism is so uncool, and because most of them had the idea of feminism as men hating or male bashing, which is it is totally not. And also we also, like, this conversation is also like often come up, that then why, like, if it is equality for all, then why it is considered like the word feminism, why does it have feminism in it? And back to Pragya's point towards how it is important to acknowledge, like, that's why, like, the term was constructed because of the history of women's history, and how they have been treated. And just in present day and age, because we have some law that equalizes that past trauma of gender, does not mean that we have achieved that culture and social equality. And also, like, for example, a very example would be that anything that is inherently related to like something that women females like is considered uncool, and like boring, or like very like, oh, like very uncool basically. And anything that inherently that is related to like, oh, sports is this, is like so cool. And I think that is also like where the name of my organization stemmed from. So it is like a very close to my heart opinion. But yeah, I think just having that mindset shift towards viewing, having open perspective and open to all, but also acknowledging those in the past and present who have been culturally disadvantaged is so important to like achieve gender equality as a whole.
Thank you, panelists. You've certainly given us and our attendees something to look forward to after this session. And we really hope that all the changes you hope for the world, they actually do get implied and we have a better future coming forward. Now, with this, I would like to hand it over to Shreya from Break.The.Ice, who would be taking us forward with the activities. And I would urge everyone to please take great part in it and please interact with us. Shreya.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Now we are up for a fun activity for all our audience as well as the panelists. To break the taboos, we present a fact quiz where our team member will be reading out a fact and you all will be guessing whether the statement is true or false. If you find the statement is correct, give a thumbs up reaction from the reaction box down on your screen. And if you find it a bit incorrect, give a thumbs down reaction. Our team will reveal whether the statement is true or not. So please participate to the maximum as it will be very fun and informative for all of you. So over to you, Arav and Prachi.
So here's our first statement. The concept of computer programming was developed exclusively by men.
Still in the middle. Okay.
The answer is false. Prachi.
I think there is some connectivity issue. If you could just give us a minute, we'll just see.
So the next fact is women are less likely to hold leadership positions due to lack of ambition. The given fact was false.
So here's our next statement. Men are rarely portrayed as caregivers or stay at home parents in movies and TV shows. Answer is true.
Women of color are the same as those of white women in terms of gender equality.
Question wasn't completely clear. Can you please repeat?
Yeah, I do believe our team is experiencing some internet issue. The question was the experience of women of color are the same as those of white women in terms of gender equality. True or false? You will be happy to know that the answer is false. Next question. All countries have enacted laws promoting gender equality. Once again, the answer is false. Next up, men and women's sports receive equal media coverage and funding. And the answer is false. Next up, gender equality efforts should focus exclusively on cisgender men and women. The answer is false. Next, the LGBTQ plus individuals do not face additional challenges related to gender equality. Once again, false. The last question of today, only 9% of the engineering force in the world is female. And you will be surprised to know that the answer is true. Next up, we have the audience Q&A session with the audience. We shall move on to that shortly.
Audible, everyone? Okay, so we had so many questions from the audience, but we have to narrow it down due to less time. So quickly, one question which was asked to Miss Pragya was that we see that in due colleges fest, boys were seen climbing over fences and using the system of due independence.
Could you repeat the last statement?
Do you think the
I heard
entire
that
system,
NDU colleges when trespass the college campuses during fests. What was the last statement?
the statement was, what do you think the system has to change in DU?
Right, absolutely. Okay, thanks. Thanks. Great question. I'll try to keep it short, but the answer is actually supposed to be long. So DU, the structure of DU is very complex. There are approx 80 to 90 colleges in DU. A lot of them do not have their individual ICCs. There is one common ICC. So something like a very layman example, but what would High Court, Supreme Court जैसा hierarchy होता है. So all colleges they have their ICC and there's a combined ICC. Now the problem is that Delhi University, it lies in Delhi. It is other but a central university. So the jurisdiction of Delhi government is not directly applicable to Delhi University. What that means is that the government which is currently in action in authority for Delhi and the Delhi Commission of Women has very limited rights to access and summon people when it comes to holding them accountable for their negligence, be it administration, be it the people who are at fault, and it creates a very complex system. What is needed right now is, and I am through so DU Beat, which is an active media organization that covers the issues happening in pertaining specifically to DU. We are trying to launch awareness campaigns around. So the thing is that because system has kind of, you know we don't have a lot of hope. I personally don't have a lot of hope in the system. What we are trying to do is again the bottom down approach. We are trying to raise awareness in the students that these are your rights. You are not supposed to endure this. You need to identify that this is gender based violence. That POSH, that ICC is applicable even when an individual outside of your college campus comes to your campus and harasses you. The ICC needs to take action. So that is a very short answer, but whoever asked that question, please write to me. I'll be happy to take that question outside of this panel.
So we only have time for
Well
another
said, Pragya. Pragya. This would certainly go on for a long debate, considering it has become such a huge issue in University of Delhi.
question. So another common question that we had, which is really interesting, was how do you think men can fight patriarchy? And this is an open question to all of our panelists.
Mr. Akshay, Mr. Akhil, would you like to take it?
Yeah. So, yeah, see, patriarchy is daily violence on men as much as women, right? It is from the media, it is from the way you talk, it's from the conversations, it's with your boss. It's a daily affair, right? And it's violence. It's directly hitting your head, your body, your psyche, everything. So I think the first thing that you would need to do, at least this is what helped me, is self-awareness. We are living in a sexist world, we are living in a patriarchal world where a man's word will be taken with more value than a woman's word. Like, I think self-awareness is the starting point to you realize that you are already in a position of advantage, and how to use that privilege, right? How to use that privilege to talk, like, whenever women are interrupted, make it a point to ask them, hey, you were saying something. Or wherever you see discrimination or acts of harassment, step in. You don't need to physically throw a man off, but you can just step in. Because for a lot of people, just somebody just witnessing is a, like, it's not enough. You just need to step in. Don't be a bystander in any situation where you see any kind of sexual violence, or like violence towards any gender. And I think the most important factor is you have to talk to women. Like, you have to listen and mostly shut up. It's incredibly difficult for men to do that, because they are filled with so many ideas and concepts, right? They want to talk, they are really inquisitive. But again, women are not there to teach you, they should not give you the labor. So if you have very general question, please use internet, please use ChatGPT. There are tons of women who have already uploaded YouTube videos and short reels to explain the concepts to you. Please do not make the point to ask everything to your women friends, and have a robust set of women friends. Make it a point to not just be having time with your bros, because we end up dehumanizing women. It's something out there, we do not know them, right? So it's something like we do not know. I think, yeah, if you do your research, you'll find 90% is the answer, but there will be 10% of the answers would require more clarity. Usi time, if you have a good woman friend to talk to, make it a point ki, hey, you don't need to do a labor. Please tell me to bugger off whenever you want me to go off. But when you have that space with good women friends, use that. Lend a listening and come up from a place of having no idea about what you're talking about. And listen, when they say something, validate. Don't say something like, I don't think that's true, I can't believe that's true. Listen, validate, and reflect. And I think that is the starting point. Self-awareness, listening, talking to a lot of women and not being a bystander are good starting points. Again, these are all starting points. The moment you start, I think for men the extremely difficult thing is the resistance that you have been trained from day one to never listen to women, to never shut up, do not interrupt. This will be hard. So this is, again, you will have to fight it yourself, because gender equality is as much as important of a fight for you as much as it is for the other marginalized entities, gender entities.
Yeah, just wanted to add one more thing. In addition to what Akshay had said, right? Put deliberate efforts to have more role models of women and other gender minorities. That will really open up our minds from time to time, like, realize what's happening around us and take actions. Thank you.
That
Thank
was really
you,
insightful.
Akshay sir and Akhil sir. It's really eye-opening to have some sort of, reflection towards these kind of things, and how men can actually participate in breaking down the idea of patriarchy. So, Soumya,
We will not be asking
Since
any more
there is a lack
questions.
of time, I would ask Soumya to, conclude with the questions. We would love to share the questions with the panelists so that at least, because each one of those questions were very, very empowering questions, and we would love to share the responses from the experts to the audience. But now that our time is over for the event, we would just like to really thank all of you for joining in. I know a lot of panelists have already been sharing screenshots of the event on Instagram and every place because they feel like this is an empowering conversation. Thank you so much to the panelists for joining in. We know there were so many glitches, but we really hope that this was an event that was enlightening, empowering, as well as something that you wanted to be a part of. And yes, we also hope that through the activity, we were able to break the ice about important conversations and just start conversations around those important statements. Because even when I heard those statements, I was like, I knew stigmas and taboos exist, but how they pan out in industries is a completely different thing. So, yes, with that, we conclude the event for today. Thank you so much, Akshay sir. Thank you, Pragya ma'am. Thank you, Akhil sir. And thank you, Vaishnavi, for being a part of this conversation. Thank you to my moderators and my entire team. And we really hope to stay connected with all of you for more conversations around breaking the ice about gender equality. Thank you so much.